Yo, what's good? It's your boy Big Steve, and welcome to the Haze and Blue, where we smoke and talk Michigan football. So let's get into it. So, in the final installment of End of an Era, we're going to be talking about one of the Michigan greats. Since this dude stepped onto Michigan campus, he was that guy, and he really showed up in the biggest of games, and no other than Will motherfucking Johnson, aka Mr. Buffs himself, cornerback one, whatever you want to call him. This dude was special, 6'2, 200 pounds, five-star recruit, and was really the head of that 2022 class that was so underrated, along with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. This dude really was that guy from his freshman year of the Big Ten championship game, where he came up with two picks against Purdue that really changed that game, where Michigan didn't have too much offenses going on. Blake Corum was hurt, and those two interceptions were big. It was no blowout whatsoever far as going against that Purdue team in their playoff game. So from that moment on, a star was born. And like I said, man, one of Michigan all-time greatest players. And he really did a lot of things in a short amount of time. Didn't really start his freshman year as a starter. Came on middle of the season. His first time on the field, he was bombed up for the only touchdown of that game, I believe. But he has been shut down ever since. 68 total tackles, 57 solos, 10 pass deflections, and I believe a Michigan high of 9 interceptions, 3 pick sixes, was an All-American, and was actually the highest rated player on the NCAA game. But this dude was definitely a baller. And the crazy thing about the 3 pick sixes, he only gave up 2 touchdowns his whole career at Michigan. So to have as more touchdowns than touchdowns allowed is crazy. Like I said, man, dude always stepped up in the biggest of games. From his freshman year against Purdue, his sophomore year getting that interception early. Marvin Harrison Jr. was definitely a big player in that game. And even in the national championship game, he had the interception coming out to start the second half and was named defensive player of that game. So junior year, actually he just picked up where he left off at the year before, had 2 early on pick sixes, but then was dealing with some turf toe. And being that he's probably going to be a top 10 draft pick, and Michigan's season was not looking too promising to make the playoffs, he decided to shut it down, and which I don't blame him, because just off his body of work, like I say, man, in the short amount of time, he's a Michigan all-time great, and he was just a special player. And I never thought about it until I look back that Michigan, Will Johnson never really gave up big plays outside of Marvin Harrison getting those 2 catches. But all season, this dude didn't really allow too many big plays, man. So, and being that far as Ohio goes, mostly every year they pull out first-round receivers. But when they went up against this dude held his own against some of the best receivers that's not just in college football, but also in the NFL as well. So he's battle-tested. He proven that he can go against the best. You can say that Michigan have a scheme where their corner's not in too much trouble as it was the Don Brown era, but still, this dude really took away half of the field that allowed these Michigan other secondary players to make plays. So Will Johnson, man, Mr. Buffs, he was one of the first players to bring the Buffs to Michigan, and him and Mikey Singerstell really solidified that defense as a special unit as far as the secondary go. Michigan always had D linemen and somewhat linebackers, but it's been a while, maybe since Leon Hall and the Marlon Jackson era, that Michigan is actually getting some respect for the secondary play. So, Will motherfucking Johnson, man, Michigan legend. It's going to be cool to see where this dude end up at in the draft. Hopefully, the turf toe is not too much of an issue. And I don't know if he's going to do the combine or not. Like I said, just off his tape alone, he's already projected as a top 10 pick. Hopefully, he go to a team where they have a good defensive scheme, because this dude is going to be special. He's going to be special. I would have loved to see him if he had the chance to play some receiver. Not saying he was going to be Travis Hunter, but I did watch some of his high school video, and Duke definitely could have made some plays at receiver. I just felt that he was too big of a threat on the defensive side of the ball that they really didn't want to take that chance with him. But he's still a motherfucking legend, national champion, All-American. And like I say, man, 3 years at Michigan, 3-0 versus Ohio. I forgot to put that in there. But 2 Big Ten championships and a national championship. So salute to Will Johnson, man. And it's probably going to be the last episode as far as, doing this year's Team 145. Shout out to Khalil Mullins as well. He was definitely a soldier for this year's team. But Will Johnson would end the end of an era. Far as I know, Jim Harbaugh wasn't the coach, but it seemed like this team with Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant and these guys leaving, these were Jim Harbaugh guys. Now, you still had Derek Moore. You still have Rob Moore and a couple players that's probably going to be back next year. But the majority of those players are going to be gone. So now it's time to see what the next year's team is going to be looking like. And hopefully, I know we probably not going to have another Will Johnson, but hopefully we can have some people in that secondary that really keep the torch going, from Daxton Hill to Mike Singerstell to Will Johnson. Who knows? Maybe Rob Moore can have a bounce back season from injury. He's definitely a dog. You have the young boy Hill. Hopefully, with the experience from this season, he can carry the torch next year. But there will never be another Will Johnson, man. He was that guy, Mr. Pick Six himself, end of an era. Go motherfucking Blue.